This soup theory course is mostly about Western soups and how Western soups develop layers of flavor. But I did want to touch on the main difference between Western soups and Southeast Asian soups. And that is that the Western soups develop flavor as you are cooking. They're developing layers in the same pot. And Southeast Asian soups, you develop the broth first, and then you strain it and clear it, clarify it, and then add the other ingredients, which are more like a garnish. So even noodles and fresh herbs are considered garnishes. The two most popular broths that I run across are dashi and yuksu. Dashi being from Japan and yuksu being from Korea. They are developed in the same manner as they develop their flavor from seaweed and dried fish. The ingredients are gently warmed up, they are not rapidly boiled, and they are strained in order to make a more clear broth. There is a helpful article on fusioncraftiness.com on how to make dashi. So to recap, we start with the aromatics. As you remember from the course on aromatics, we saute certain vegetables. It can be any vegetables that you want. The typical ones, the classics, are onions, celery, carrots, mushrooms, maybe some bell peppers, maybe some parsnips. And you saute these to get that first layer of flavor. Aromatics can also include spices. Some of the Indian and African soups will utilize their spices at this point, where you'll saute your vegetables, your aromatics, and then towards the last 1 to 2 minutes, they'll add the spices. And what this does is it heats up the spices, and the spices will release their oils. It's called blooming the spices, and it just helps to develop the flavors in the spices that much more. Just remember, if you add the spices, add them the last 1 to 2 minutes, as they burn easily and will start smoking on you. When chopping the aromatics, if you want to keep the aromatics in the soup at the end, you would dice them small. If you want to retrieve them, you would just leave them big, like I did here with the celery. For this soup, the carrots and the onions will stay in, and later I will retrieve the celery and bay leaves and herbs as soon as I extract all the flavor I can from them. When you add the liquid is up to you. I like to add it before the aromatics start to burn. If you do want a smoky flavor, you can allow your aromatics to char a little bit, and that will impart a little bit of a smoky flavor. For most soups, I don't like that, so I just add the liquid before that starts happening. The liquid that you choose is really up to you. You can use straight water. We have a good aromatic combination going, so water would have been fine. I did use chicken broth with this soup. This soup is actually going to turn into a chicken noodle soup. You can simmer water and broth virtually forever, indefinitely. But if you're going to add something that has alcohol in it, like vermouth, wine, or sherry, add that at the last 5 minutes or so. The alcohol will burn off, but the flavor will still be there. If you add it too early, you might lose some of that flavor. Now at this point, you would add, depending on what kind of soup you're going to make, your protein, carbs, and veggies, or any combination thereof. If this is a soup that you're going to puree, you would just add the veggies at this point, and maybe the carbs if it's going to be potatoes or maybe rice, but don't add noodles at this point, and don't add protein if you're going to puree your soup. When you do puree your soup, you would puree it in a food processor or blender, put it back into your soup pot, then add your protein and noodles. However, a lot of pureed soups don't actually have noodles in them. They're pretty thick on their own. Since I am making a chicken noodle soup for this demonstration, I am adding the chicken right here. After the protein cooks through and everything in the soup is cooked through, this is when I check for seasoning. So the main seasoning I'm checking for is salt, but I'm also checking for a balance of flavors and some heat. So if it's still lacking some depth and flavor, I will add something that has umami in it. And if it's lacking some heat, I might add black pepper at this point, or chili flakes, or something like that. For umami, my favorite cheat for soup is actually miso paste. At the end, we will add the finishing touches. This not only includes the garnishes, but also any last minute flavor you want to add. For example, with the acids, such as fresh lemon and lime juice, if you add these at the end, you get the full citrusy flavor. If you add them at the beginning and they cook throughout this cooking process, they actually become a little bit bitter. So I add the citrus at the end. Same with miso. Miso, if you add it too early, then you lose all that flavor. And also the alcohols. If you add the alcohols such as vermouth, wine, sherry in the beginning, then you'll lose all that flavor. If you add it the last 5 minutes, the alcohol will cook off and you will still get that flavor. Here I added miso at the end, and I'm stirring it really well so that it will dissolve. Another option you can try is to add miso to a little bit of water, stir it up to dissolve, and then pour it into the pot. That usually works for me. And then also I like to take out the large aromatics, just like I talked to you earlier. I'm taking out the large herbs that I didn't cut up and the celery, and I'm adding the citrus at the end. If you're making a pasta or noodle soup and you're going to have leftovers, make sure you cook the pasta and noodles separately and then just serve it together. Just add the soup to the noodles and you'll be fine. If you put all this in the refrigerator together, the noodles will continue to absorb the broth and you won't have any broth left the next day. So now what? Now you've got all of the information you need to make great soups and you want more. My website is fusioncraftiness.com. It has lots of recipes and lots of how-to tutorials, including how to make dashi, how to make broth. So if you want to really dive deeper into soup making, definitely check out those articles. And if you haven't subscribed already, I have a newsletter that goes out weekly-ish, and it really dives into world cuisine for the average home cook. So if you're into trying new things and new ingredients from around the world, then definitely check out that news. Also, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at FusionCraft. Don't forget to check out the bonus section in the next module. This is a 13-page printable soup manifesto, which includes tips and reference sheets for making soup. Also, there's a cheat sheet for umami, so whether you're cooking soup or some other dinner, it's a really helpful reference sheet in order to help add some extra flavor into your cooking. Congratulations on finishing this course, and don't forget to explore, learn, and eat.